Okay, Andre, we're live. Thanks for joining me. I'll go ahead and give the floor to you. Why don't you introduce yourself, give a little background for my audience so they know who you are and what your story is.
So basically, hello guys, my name is Andre. I'm a sales representative. I'm a sales leader. I'm also founder of Aidvize, which is a AI startup role plays for sales. So yeah, today I'm here with Connor to basically tell you a little bit more about my story.
Yeah, so maybe we could because I know you and I had talked a bit about it. You mentioned that you were trained as a pilot, but obviously now you're in sales, building a tech startup yourself. Maybe we could start there. Why were you trained as a pilot? Why did you not continue down that path and you kind of went into something else? I'm just curious what caused you to pivot or choose a different path.
So being a pilot was my childhood dream, right? So I always wanted to be a pilot since I was a kid, and that for me seems to be the natural course of my life. So with 17 years old, I started to do my training for pilots in Brazil. But being a pilot is a very expensive training. Is not something that everyone can actually do it, especially in Brazil. I didn't came from a rich family. I didn't came from like a good money structure. So I had to work to pay for my training. And with 17 years old, I start to work in this company in Brazil in sales, basically to pay for my training. And then I basically start liking that. I start liking the daily basis of sales representatives. Like I saw other guys next to me were selling like 1 million reais per month, and they were making lots of money. And then I start liking that. I start liking the activity, and I said, okay, that maybe could be my future. Um, and I start slightly changing the course from aviation to sales at that time.
I'm just curious, can you go into more detail of what it takes to be a pilot, like what the training is and why it's so expensive? Are you able to break that down a bit?
Sure. So to be a pilot, first you have to pass all the medical exams, which is the first phase, and then you have to pass all the assessments, the theoretical training and courses, etc. And then, as I said, then comes the most difficult part for any aviator, which is the flying hours. Then you have to pay for the flight hours. Usually, this training goes up to 100K, depending of the region you're getting the training. In Brazil, is around 100K. In Europe, is around 200. So this is very expensive. At least for me at that time, it was very expensive, and that's pretty much how you become a pilot. So you become a pilot from taking this theoretical, then the flying hours, until you become like a commercial pilot.
And when you say 100K, is that in US dollars? Is that what you're referring to it in?
Yes, yes, yes. US dollars.
And then I'm curious what your life would have been like as a commercial pilot. So you would have flown for a big commercial airline in Brazil. And I'm curious if you're able to share what would your salary have looked like. And then also, it's my understanding, right? If you're a pilot, you're flying somewhere, spending the night, flying somewhere back. Like it seems
Yeah,
like you work odd hours, right? Or very long hours. Is
exactly.
that fair?
Yes. Yes,
What
exactly. So I have many friends that is flying right now in the commercial aviation. They're flying for different airliners. What I've seen about this life of being a pilot, first of all, is very overwhelming. First of all, because of the personal time, as you said, you are always in different locations. You're always flying. You don't have personal time. So that is the first thing. And second thing about the salary is, in average in Europe, you have pilots having a salary of 50K, 60K range per year. That's the entry salary from a pilot. Of course, in sales, you don't get that much salary in the entry jobs in the when you're beginning. But you know, when I see the career of a pilot, you take like 10 years to become a captain, you take like 8 years to become a senior first officer. But the progression in career is so slow than when it compares to other, you know, fields, it becomes very obvious that aviation is a very high level investment with a return in a very long time.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then so you mentioned your sales position, and you mentioned to me that is this the door-to-door sales position that you started in?
Yeah, so no, this position I started in Brazil was to sell dentist products. It was actually funny because I started as a delivery courier guy, so I was delivering packages for this company. But after 2 or 3 weeks, a couple of weeks, I was just tired of doing that because I was risking my life in the street. Like the traffic in Brazil is so mad. And then I came to my boss and said, "Hey, I can do this anymore. Like I can not be in delivery packages. I want to do something else, or I quit myself." And basically, he said, "Okay, let's find out something else in the company." And then I was basically transferred for the sales department in the company. So that was my first kind of saying sales experience I had. And this company had like two sectors. So they had the retail sector and then they had the wholesale the sector departments. And the retail departments, the sales representatives were more junior, so they didn't have too much experience. They were just learning. And then on the wholesale departments, they had more experienced sales representatives. So when I joined this department, I was in the retail, learning the principles of selling, of selling, how to communicate effectively with the customer, and so on. And then after a couple of months, I came to the wholesale department. So I was actually doing big sales to big customers. I had a desk which was pretty awesome. Like I had the desk, all the papers, etc. So that was my first experience. And then when I moved to Europe, roughly 9 years ago, then I started working door to door sales, which was completely different, very hard job for me at that time.
What were you selling door to door?
So it was basically contracts for electricity company in Portugal. So this company, the electricity in Portugal is not a monopoly. It's a free market. You can choose the company that supply you the energy. It's not the same in Brazil or other regions. So at the time, I was selling these contracts for energy, and that was particularly difficult because the prices were almost the same between the companies. The conditions were pretty much the same. So you actually had to sell the brand. You actually had to sell you know, you before the company.
And so how did you deal with rejection, right? I know in the United States when people knock on doors, I mean, people aren't too kind to solicitors, right? So how did you what strategies did you use to become successful in a door-to-door sales role?
Well, this is a good question. There is a context here, a cultural context that I need to tell you. One thing is a Portuguese guy knocking your door, and a completely different thing is a Brazilian guy knocking your door. Is two different things. There's the whole cultural difference. When is a Portuguese guy, usually the people are more nice, responds a little bit more respectful. But when is a foreign knocking your door, usually there is this disconnection. There is not so much empathy and so on. So I had to first deal with the barrier to be a foreign in this country. That was the first barrier. And then the second barrier, of course, was knocking doors of people, strangers, and basically to sell a product that nobody wants, because that's true. Nobody wants to have these people knocking the door to sell energy. So the strategy I used was what I call it, or my friends call it, big numbers. Is just pretty much always knock the next door, and that was the biggest lesson I ever had in my life. Which was every time I received a no as an answer, I knocked the next door and the next door and the next door and so on and so on. So after a while, I realized that I have to knock, let's say, 100 doors to do one contract, because I never knew what to expect in the next door. I could find a old lady that loved Brazilian, while the all the rest of 99 guys hated Brazilians and would tell me to fuck off. So that was my strategy. It was always not give up, knock the next door. I never know what's gonna happen in the next door. So let's just move forward.
And when you look back at it, I'm curious, right? Because it sounds like you kind of fell into sales. Are you grateful that you fell into sales, or why did you stick with sales and not say, okay, I tried sales, now I want to try another area of business?
Sure. So, many times I actually lost the count of how many times I seated in the streets when I was knocking doors, and I thought to myself, I did something wrong. I should go to be a pilot. Like I literally had to choose the wrong thing for my life. And I had these moments many times, and I'm so grateful for that because I failed quite a lot of times in sales, especially on this job because I didn't have a salary. It was just a commission based package. So I had to sell to survive. And every time I couldn't sell or every time I could bring commission home, I was thinking I was a failure. But in the next day, everything started again. So I had to knock exactly the same 100 doors or 200 doors. And basically, I start to realizing that I was looking to the end of the goal, which is basically bringing the money home instead of just doing my job. My job is just knocking doors and pitching. And once I realized I was just looking for money and for the end result instead of doing my job, I start to be successful in sales because then I was not focusing on the end result. I was focusing on the what I actually can control, which is my pitch, which is the way I communicate, and so on. So yes, I had lots of these times. I was feeling down. I was feeling I had chosen the wrong career. All the people that was working with me at that time was quitting the job, so I was the only one staying there, and I'm super grateful for that. I'm super grateful to tell myself to go on and move forward.
And I'm curious because there's kind of a perception for people that haven't been in sales before, or just generally that some people are born salespeople or born sellers. And then there's another side of the coin that says anybody could be a salesperson. It's a skill that needs to be developed. I mean, what's your perspective considering your experience? I mean, can anybody sell, or is it really just specific types of people?
I don't think the specific types of people can sell. Actually, if you knew me 9 years ago, you would say I'm a completely different person right now because 9 years ago I was introvert guy. I could barely speak with strangers, like much less pitching a product or selling anything. The thing I guess happened to me and can happen to anyone is how much you are committed to learn about it, to learn about something. And that can be selling or acting or singing or anything else in your life, right? And I think sales is pretty much the same. It's all about communication, self confidence, and these are things that you don't born with, but you can learn how to improve in your life. So definitely, I don't think I born with these skills. I don't think I born sales representative, but I was committed to learn how to do it.
Yeah, so maybe looking back like at your younger self when you were starting all of this, considering being a pilot, but also doing sales in Brazil and in Portugal. I mean, what advice would you give your younger self, or what advice do you have for maybe younger people that are just entering sales or entering their kind of journey, their career journey?
Um, the first of all, I think that the best advice I would give to myself is to not give up on the first door. And this about doors are like very wide open, in our lives because you can relate doors with opportunities in your life, etc. For me, doors were literally doors I was knocking to sell, but I think I had like also doors of opportunities. So this would be my advice. You sometimes will face really difficult blockers in your career. You're gonna think, okay, I'm not able to do it, and you want to to try new things, especially because I think right now the world is so fast that you always want to try new things. So like and change. Okay, this is not working. I'm gonna change for that. This is not working. I'm gonna change for that. So if you stick to it, like you go to a gym, right? If you stick to it, and if you're still working out, if you're still learning, if you're still getting something out of it, you're gonna see the end result. So that would be my advice. At that time, I couldn't see that.
Yeah, I like it, the consistency. And maybe we can kind of shift into kind of like what you're building. And I want to talk about something you posted on LinkedIn, and you said
Hmm.
that the magic of entrepreneurship is that there's no magic at all. The real game changer is showing up day in, day out. It's all about that consistent effort. That's what truly pays off in the end. So it's kind of what you just talked about, and it can be related to sales and maybe be related to building a company as well. Like, why do you think people misperceive that starting a company will be simple and sexy? And what do people miss? And what is it actually like building a company? And then maybe you can kind of also go into what you are building with Aidvize.
Sure. So I'm in the Z startup world and entrepreneurship for a while, and I never had actually a job in the corporate world. I never worked for a Deloitte or one of the big four or something like that, which is a big thing for most of the people. My opinion is that right now the LinkedIn and the social media basically tell you that the only way to be successful is building your own stuff, your company, become independent, financially independent, and that's the only way you can be successful. And I don't agree with that at all. And I've met people in my life that was working 9 to 5. They had very good personal time with their families, for themselves, a good mental health. And I start to realize that the world right now is trying to sell this idea because I don't know, because of the entire world, the billionaires and stuff. That's this is the only way for you. This is the only way you can be successful, and so on. The people, young people, thinks, okay, the only way I can build my successful story, my career is building a company, building a startup, going through entrepreneurship, and that's the only way. So I don't agree with that, and that's why I said there's no magic; it's just consistency. And I do agree if you have a consistency in your work, even it's 9 to 5. If you're an entrepreneur, you can achieve results. You can achieve a successful life no matter what. And this magical life that sometimes is painted is not that really true. You work lots of hours indeed, but you cannot romanticize that. This is not good for your mental health. So yes, you have a good return, of course, most of the times, but the failure rates are so higher. So 78% of the startups fail in the first 3 years. So that's what I mean about this is not like a magic story. This is not the fairy tale that all the people is painting. And this is like my advice as well. If you're happy with your 9 to 5 job, if you're making a good money, that you're able to live and living happy without like all the mental health issues that most of the entrepreneurships are having, maybe that's for you. And if you're not passionate about entrepreneurship, this is also not for you as well.
Yeah, so and I think part of it is that it's almost like it's easier than ever to start something or to try something, right? And so I think that's part of the reason so many people are trying. But basically what you're saying is just know that if you want to try and start something on the side, it's not going to be easy. It's not this romanticized thing. You think people
Exactly.
maybe should try, but just know what you're getting yourself into. Is that fair?
Exactly. Like I think 2 years ago, I was in this incubation center where I started my first startup, and I've seen like many young guys like me with 18 years, 19 years old, thinking, okay, I'm gonna build this like low code platform. It's gonna be easy. I'm gonna sell this idea for a million or so, and that's it. Like I'm rich. No, this is far from true. This is far from true. There's lots of work that needs to be put on any project that you're gonna work. That's lots of learn that you have to commit to have. So it's way more complex than just launching, let's see, and make lots of money, as usually it's painted for the entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and then maybe we could talk about that like from your perspective, right? So kind of your present day, right? You're not selling energy door to door anymore, I would imagine, right? I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
at your LinkedIn. So you're starting Aidvize and you're also the chief revenue officer at Cube. So are you kind of working a 9 to 5, but in a startup role and then also starting your own startup on the side?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. So
It
this is what I found out to be a good balance for me. It's basically, you know, before jumping to it, let me give you a context. So coming back to this last project I've worked at, that came before COVID, and where I had this dream to build a company, and I basically quit my 9 to 5 job to jump in this world without knowing anything, thinking that things would be a little bit easier, as I said, like just building stuff, getting money, selling the company, and that's it. Perfect, good life right now. Instead, a pandemic hit. My company had to be closed, so we had to close the company. All the customers that we had inside the platform went down of the service. So I had very difficult times. I started to develop myself anxiety. I started to develop other health issues at that time. And then I realized that for my next ventures, for my next path or project I will build, I wanted more stability and to build something on site until I have some kind of traction, a small traction that could prove, okay, I'm ready now to focus on this 100%. And this is the stage where I am right now, building Aidvize and getting this small traction right now that I can say to myself, okay, this is now time to focus on this.
very cool. And I'm curious, because you just talked about it, kind of telling people to think twice before jumping in. And so it sounds like you have the option, being chief revenue officer at Cube, to keep pursuing that, keep pushing that, growing in your 9 to 5 when you basically said,
Mhm.
hey, other people may want to consider that as well. So why are you subjecting yourself to the trials of building a company when you've already mentioned something failed in the past, it affected your
Mhm.
mental health? So why are you continuing to push forward and continuing to want to do this?
Yes, exactly. So, as I said, either you love this entrepreneurship, either you love uh, building a project, you love, and you're not looking for the end result, or you look to the end result and you don't love what you do when you build a project. And I love this. I love startups. I love the projects. I love this development phase where we don't have all the answers. We need to find out the answers. So right now the difference is I'm not looking to the end results. I'm doing that because I love doing that. I love building stuff. Like my right now my dream is not to be a pilot, but to build something that the society can use my product, can have benefits in their daily basis lives. So that's why I'm building. So the purpose is different. And I think the game changer here is what is your purpose? Do you really love that? Do you really love building stuff? Do you really love working a lot of hours from projects that can solve people's problems in their daily lives? If that is your purpose, of course, you should go for it. But if it's not, then I don't think it's worth the risk. Just because of the end result, just because you might be rich or might not, this is not an answer.
Yeah, so you think a lot of people struggle, or the reason that a lot of people quit is that they focus on the money and they realize that
Definitely, definitely,
the money is
definitely,
is harder to come by than they thought, and that it's going to take years of work to get there, and then they
exactly,
end up
definitely,
quitting.
definitely. I
So
mean, from the founders I've seen in the startups I've seen, usually they take lots of time until they see a good return, financially speaking. But first, what they see is a game changer in their customers' lives. They see the company thriving, and this sometimes worth more than just money in the end of the way.
So maybe you could articulate then, that change that you're trying to create for your customers, like what you are building specifically. We haven't gotten into that with, and is
Mhm.
it Aidvize? Am I pronouncing that correctly, or how do you
Yeah,
pronounce it exactly?
yeah, advice.
Okay.
It was supposed to be advice, but then the .com domains are so difficult to find out. We found out this domain was super good. We love the name. We love how it felt to talk about it. So Advice is a AI role play platform. So we use AI personas as a bot that replicates real customer interactions to training sales representatives. So pretty much in my sales career, I've seen this many times. When you join a company, you have to learn about the product, you have to learn about the customer objections, how to turn that objections into a closing. And basically the companies are wasting, not wasting, but investing quite a lot of time on these trainings. And the sales leaders are also investing quite a lot of time on these trainings, providing one-on-one role play sessions. So basically, it's like Connor pretending to be a customer, I pretending to be a sales rep, and basically you have some objections, and I have to close the sales. But this is not scalable, as you know. And we came to a point where the AI it's pretty advanced on this conversational um, technology. So it's pretty easy to have a full conversation with the bot, AI bot. So we build Advice to solve this problem and to get the sales reps ready for the real world and for the field much faster.
And so, how did you go about building this product? Do you have a technical background, or do you have a technical co-founder? How are you able to integrate the existing AI conversational
Mhm.
large language model into these bots or role-playing avatars?
So I have a co-founder, which is the technical responsible for the product, but all the rest in terms of marketing, sales, and everything else is basically I am responsible for it. I've learned a little bit about the technical stuff, but I think when you're building something, it's always better to have someone else to build with you instead of you building yourself. So I could potentially bring the project and invest on the outsourced team to build it, but I prefer to have a co-founder, a technical expert that could also help me to envision the company and to create the first steps of the product, to envision the product as well.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Maybe we could focus on kind of your role and considering your background in sales, like how now that you run the entire show for Advise, how are you acquiring those customers and who is your perfect target customer? Is it any business that has B2B sales reps, or who are you targeting specifically with this product?
Yes, so from our experience, we've been speaking with few companies in the Iberian market and the European markets. We've seen software as a service as being the most important target for us as customer. Usually, your companies that has a single product and scalable teams around that. So they are expanding markets, a single product that they sell, lots of sales reps, and they are having difficulties to scale the training and the onboarding of the sales team. So that could be considered a B2B.
And so, how are you identifying these customers and then also qualifying them? Is this a lot of cold outreach that you're doing? Maybe it's on LinkedIn or
Yes,
other social platforms. Is that
definitely,
fair?
definitely. Yeah, exactly, definitely. So every that's actually a funny story. When we started Advice, we haven't even the website online. We haven't anything online. So not even the sales materials or a deck or anything. We had just the drawn in the mural about the idea, like what we were thinking to do. And then I spoke with my co-founder and said, like, hey, let's validate the idea. Let's see if we go to LinkedIn and basically pitching that, it's going to be interested people to try the product. And indeed, that worked. So we came to LinkedIn. We start pitching the people with just this drawing, this very ugly drawing about the idea, the concept. And we start pitching, hey, I have this product. And the way we were pitching was like something ready. You could never tell that is just a concept. You would feel that is something ready. So we were pitching, we already have that. What do you think that could help your company? And then we start to pitch the value propositions that we have assumptions. So basically, speeding up the sales training, speeding up the time that the sales rep would be ready to the field, and so on. And the first leads start to respond to that, and they start to say, oh, that's interesting, I want to listen and to hear more what you have to say. So we start to book our first demos, and once we have our first demo schedule, was the time that we start building actually all the materials, the decks and stuff, to present them what exactly is the idea. And then during the demo, I usually say, okay, but listen to me, this is not ready right now, but I'm counting with you for the trial period, for a POC or early adoption of the product. And in return, I give you a perk. So basically, usually the perk with Aidvize when you join the early adoption program is a 5 free lifetime license for your team. So that's pretty good for this companies that is joining the early stage.
And so, for maybe anybody else out there, right? Because I know cold outreach is a big thing now, especially with so many automation tools and as you mentioned, so many people starting businesses. Do you have any best practices for cold outreach for anybody listening, or how do you make sure that you're utilizing that efficiently, or making sure that you're able to get responses and also reach out to qualified leads and get the most out of cold outreach?
Yes. So I think I've tried everything so far. Like I've tried every tool out there, AI sequences, email writers, AI SDRs. I think I've tried everything, and I've seen better results with few tools, not so good results with other tools, etc. But so far, the best thing I've always done in my life as a sales representative were individually looking the profile of my customers, personally getting insights of their lives or their companies or their roles, whatever, getting that personally, creating this insight in my head, and then outreaching myself, like creating myself an email, a cold outreach. And the reason for that is because I start to, when I start to grow up in my career, when I become a CRO in this company, I start to receive lots of messaging as well. So right now I receive like 100 message, 300 messages per week from people trying to sell me something. And then I start to realize even more that I need to be creative. I need to be unique. And basically, when you do a sequence, when you use any kind of tool, that's very good to scale, but it's not so good to make you unique or original in your messaging. You're gonna be in your customer mailbox as everyone else. So for me, I rather send 30 emails, not so scalable, but 30 emails, and look on the LinkedIn profile, getting insights, making some notes about, I don't know, achievements, any relevant news, and be as much creative as it can be on the messaging, and try to nail in the head the customer, and that's pretty much my outreach.
Yeah, I think you made a really good point about having to customize or stand out. Otherwise, you just get lost. Because I'm sure. So maybe we could talk about this, like the competition, right, or alternatives. I'm sure if you're
Hmm.
reaching out to a head of sales at some B2B SaaS company and you're saying, hey, I have this next great thing, AI sales training, role playing. I would imagine they get so many similar pitches, right? So it's important that you
Definitely.
stand out.
Thousands. There is hundreds of sales reps out there trying to sell the same product as you are trying to do. What I usually think is I try to I try to think as if I am my customer. That's the kind of my challenge. So if I'm trying to connect, if I'm trying to reach out to a CEO, for example, I try to think at least for 3 or 4 minutes and picture how is the daily basis of the CEO. How is their work life? So how many emails the CEO receives per week or per day? And every time I do that, I start to thinking, oh my god, he must be receiving like 30, 40 emails right now. He must be talking with his secretary about important meetings that he's going to have. And this is a very important challenge. This is a very important exercise that I think sales reps must have before reaching out. It's picturing yourself in your customer life. So if you do that, you start to think how I would like to receive a message if I was him. And this, I think, is a game changer. If you think as your customer, you start to realizing what is the things that you would like to receive in the message that would open your eyes for that. And this is super important. Right now, AI platforms, tools, outreach tools are not able to do that. They just take one message and they send out to thousands of customers, no matter the language as well. So no matter if this is a French customer or it's a German customer, it will be all in English. So that is, I think, is a very very important thing. I was working with this CRO from this company, and I had a very valuable insight with him. He was telling me that every first meeting he had with the customer was to take this customer out of the pipeline, not to move forward in the pipeline. So he was never looking for things that he could move forward, but instead to take out of the pipeline. So that was actually funny because every time you had the first meeting with the customer together with the CRO, he was pretty tough with the customer. So he was asking tough questions to the customer, going very deep in their pain points. And I started realizing that the secret of sales is how faster can you tell this is the right customer that actually feel the pain points that your product can solve. And for me, that is where the good, the perfect, and the top sellers, the top performers differentiate from the, let's say, standard sellers out there. The top sellers, the top performance can tell immediately once you have a meeting with them, the first meeting, in the first 2 minutes, they can tell, okay, this is not good for you. What I'm selling is not good for you. You're not my customer. So I rather stay out there in the markets trying to find out customers that actually fits my product than trying to sell you something that is not going to work for you. And this is the big mistake I think for like 80% of the sales reps nowadays is that we are trying to show results to our managers, to our leaders, etc. So you always try to sell. You always try to you listen 2 minutes to the customer, you get a pain point, and you think, okay, this is my product is perfect for you, blah blah blah, buy it. And then the sale is going forward and forward in the pipeline until you came to a point that the customer say, you know what, this is not for right now. This is not a good fit right now. Maybe let's wait for the next year budget or whatever. So why I think the most closings I have is successful when I have a closing is because my pipeline in the closing stage is very short but very qualified. So the secret is as faster as you can tell that your customer fits all the criteria that your product can solve his pain, easier is going to be to close it. Almost 100% close it is almost impossible to not close that customer actually. So this is the secret. Focus on the discovery. Focus on actually finding out what your customer is really having as a pain points and if your product fits.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that people don't think about. And I think a lot of what I've realized too with both of these in terms of like qualifying prospects via cold outreach and closing them, it seems like you have a lot of attention to detail that others may lack, and that in turn takes more time up front, but it has a much bigger ROI for you in the long term. Is that how you view it?
Exactly. That's exactly how I view it. You know, I usually I do some coaching for CEOs in sales departments and how to get better or more efficient sales initiatives or process. One thing I've seen from again 80% of the sales departments I've worked with was the lack of data and lack of data in detail. So basically, how is the conversion rate for conversation slash first lead generated, for example? How is the conversion rate from the first lead generated for the first qualified lead and so on? Usually, you track your conversion rate when you actually have a conversion into a sale, but that's not the only indicator that you must have in your company or in your sales department. You have to track all the conversions that you're having in this pipeline, seeing actually where the process is failing. Maybe you're pitching wrong. Maybe you're not doing a very good discovery call. In the end. Being analytic towards the sales department, being analytic in this process makes the whole difference. Actually, you can see where you're failing, where you can adjust things. So I totally agree with that. It's better to have lots of work in the beginning of the pipeline, track every indicator in these conversations and lead generation, see where it's failing, and focusing on the interviewing the customer, getting the pain points and criteria, than the end of the funnel. The end of the funnel should be just closing.
Yeah, so maybe let's kind of flip it back on Advise and what, considering all the points you've just made, everything you know, what is the biggest roadblock to growth currently with Advise and kind of taking you and your startup to the next level?
So yeah, right now, AI in general is passing through a very interesting transformation right now, right? So we have the reality, which is basically what's the customer is feeling about AI and the pain points that he has in the company that AI could solve the problem. And then there's the future. And the future, no one knows right now because AI is not very predictable. Right, 2 years ago we didn't even tell we couldn't even tell that AI would take place as it is right now. So I think this instability of AI, many of competitors, it's a very aggressive market. This is something that is a blocker for us, and we need to find out yet if our products can sustain in the next 5-10 years, or is just a momentary solving problem. And I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet. Maybe we're solving a problem right now, and 2 years later, the same product will not be relevant for the market. And this is where we are. We are, of course, testing a few things out. We have a vision for Aidvize, and building also products besides the AI will play. But it's still a question mark that we need to find out the answer.
So let's just say, if you remove all that uncertainty, or in a perfect world, what do you foresee? What is that vision? What do you foresee for Advise going, 5, 10 years into the future?
Yeah. So I received this question from an investor not so much time ago, and I guess the future of sales will be through AI. I'm pretty sure of that, right? So we've seen these many tools that's sending automatic emails to the customers, writing emails, etc. And we actually see bots right now. So maybe in the future, what I believe is a trend where the AI could take over and become such good conversational technology that can not replace, but in some sense help the sales representatives to do some cold calls, for example, and so on. So what I believe is in the future, our AI and our product will transform into a completely autonomous SDR that goes to the market, do cold calls to the customers, and basically can. I don't say that can sell the product. I don't think the humans will be ready to negotiate complex contracts and deals with AI fully automated. But I think for the demand generation, at least, getting some leads and outreaching, doing some cold calls, I think that is the future. And this is where maybe Aidvize is heading to.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's going to be crazy to see what happens with this technology over the next 5 years, right? To your point, you just don't know. Does that give you pause as a founder, or cause fear to
That's
come up
super
of like,
interesting. That's super interesting. Yesterday, I was watching on Netflix Ex Machina, Ex Machina. I don't know how you pronounce
mhm.
the name, but basically, if you've seen this movie, is how this guy builds this AI person, the AI robots, and then basically this AI robot takes conscience and actions, etc. So if you don't see the movie, check it out. It's very interesting. And then I was watching this movie yesterday, and I was thinking to myself, "Oh my god! Like I watched this movie because that was the second time I watched this movie. The first time I watched this movie was in 2014 or 15 or something like that. And in 2014 or 15, I thought, oh my god, this is like just sci-fi movies. Like this is impossible to happen. This is like okay, this is the kind of movies like Interstellar, whatever. And yesterday I was watching this movie and I was thinking, whoa, we are actually almost there. And we are talking about 2015 to 2000, right? So it's almost 10 years difference. And 10 years ago, I was thinking this is impossible to happen. Like, I'm not going to be even alive when AI robots is actually taking life or creating conscience. But now we have all this AI technology, all this conversational AI. So is frightening, actually. Answering your question is frightening. As a founder, I think 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when you build something, when you build a company, were way more predictable. Like you build something, you knew that you would have this demand in the market for the next 20 years. Just if something really big happened, like a war or something, that would not be the same thing. But with AI, it's a completely different story. You never know the next day. You never know the next year, the next weekend. And this is actually something that is frightening,
Yeah. Well,
but
hey,
exciting.
we're all,
Frightening, but
yeah,
exciting.
yeah. I guess we're all along for the ride, so we'll see, right?
Yeah.
I think neither
Yep.
of us know where it's headed, but all right. Just to end here, I just want to go through kind of a couple hypothetical questions, and you kind of
Sure.
talked about this earlier. Not focusing on the money, but I think, and maybe I can ask you. I don't. Is an acquisition your long term plan for Advise, or is this something if
Definitely.
everything works out? Okay. So
Definitely.
this question is kind of in line with that. Let's just say hypothetically you sell Advise, you're and after taxes, after everything, you're left with 10 million US dollars in your bank account. How are you spending or investing that money if that were to happen?
So, one thing I really, really like to do is to help the ecosystem, and this is not like this bullshit entrepreneurship talking because everyone says the same. Yeah, like I want to help. No, I really actually want to invest in projects that could help at least in my region, which is Portugal. So I'm very fascinated about that. I really want to invest like in the startups that's helping Portugal to get better, to increase the anything that could help our lives. But in general, I'm very fascinated about how Bill Gates did. Uh, and, I mean, end up with selling the shares in Microsoft and his position and basically creating things to help the society. And this is something that I really, really would like to do. Of course, I would take some money for my personal life, no question about it. But I'm not the type of guy that thinks like $1 billion or $2 billion. I mean, this is more than enough for a lifetime, right? So I think like we should think about how to use these resources to build more stuff or to help to build more stuff. And this is basically my end goal would be to to help building more interesting projects, smart cities, and so on.
No, I think that's great. I think those are good points to give back. I think that is a trend, right?
Exactly.
With
Yeah.
billionaires. So, okay, kind of similar. You did mention Bill Gates, but anybody dead or alive to build a company with, or to join Advise to build it with you, who would you pick and why?
Definitely Bill Gates.
Okay.
I really like his background, his track, like so. Yeah, definitely him. Definitely him.
Any other like how would he help? Anything else specific, like why him, or like anything about his mindset or his expertise that would actually truly help you?
If you were purely expertise, you have guys like Steve Jobs in the past that he was a visionary. He could basically create stuff out of nowhere. But where I guess I have the most, let's say, fit, where I think I really like Bill Gates from what I knew about him, in the media, in the stories, and the books, etc., is how hustler he was. And this, I think, is very important. Is not only to be good envisioning something, but also to be a hustler, how to bring the things forward. Um, and this, I think, is very important. This hustling that someone in the entrepreneurship have to, put the hands on the products, going there and sell it. This is something that I really like it, and that's why Bill Gates. For technical, that we could see someone else.
Yeah, for him, it sounds like it's almost just like his demeanor or the culture he would bring, he would just change the feeling, right? Like the soft skills of the company
Exactly,
to really drive for results.
exactly.
Yeah, I don't think you can put a price on that, so I think that's good. All right, the next one I have, you lose everything, no money in your bank account. How are you starting over? What are you doing? What are you building, and why?
I think the one thing is very important is the learning is something that's never no one can take out from you, right? Everything that you learn or your knowledge is something is part of you. So right now, if I had to start all over again, what I would do was exactly the same thing I did in the past. Basically, starting a sales job again, getting some amount of money that I could invest in any kind of new projects. But one thing I would be way more like careful, and not careful, but like open minded to, was to look for opportunities. And I think this is the big thing. Like once you start this entrepreneurship career and world, once you start looking at, you start to look for opportunities much more. So you see let's say a building that is, there's nothing inside, and then you think, okay, that could be a restaurant. So your mind now is formatted to see that. Before it wasn't. So maybe I would do the same things, but now I would have more the vision about to seek the opportunities to convert these opportunities into real things. So that's how I would start over again.
Yeah, I think some good points. And then maybe just to close out here, final question. We've talked about it a bit. Any other advice for young aspiring entrepreneurs? I know we've talked about it throughout the conversation, but anything maybe you haven't mentioned, anybody you want to leave anything you want to leave the audience with?
So I guess like one important thing I did was to stick with very smart people and very successful entrepreneurs myself. Usually the young guys, I've seen that. I'm seeing this so many times right now with the growth of incubation centers, acceleration centers, etc. You see many good entrepreneurs, but you don't see that much external help or people that they can stick with enough experience to teach you something. So I would say like stick with people that actually can drive you forward instead of backwards. And this I think is super important. When I moved to Europe, I tried to change a little bit the people I was hanging out, the people I was having conversations, and then one thing that started happening is the amount of connections or new connections that I started to build in Portugal and Europe, and that was crucial for me. From one day to another, I had over 600 connections, top CEOs in my LinkedIn profile. And that was like really, really important for me because every time I needed help or every time I needed like another advice from someone, I was looking for those guys. So that would be my advice. Like try to stick with people that can actually open doors for you, can help you to connect with very interesting people in your area, and that will make lots of difference.
Yeah, I think you make a good point with LinkedIn, right? And the internet today, it's easier than ever to connect with people
Super
that you're interested
social.
in.
Yeah, about LinkedIn, just to not forget that. Like this is also an advice. I took some time to build my LinkedIn profile, as you saw in my LinkedIn profile, and I tried always to sell myself in or to positioning myself as a professional in my area, in my segments, etc. Um, I see lots of people that's a little bit afraid to sell themselves online. They think, "Oh, that's too arrogant for me." Trying to picture that I am a professional when I'm just a junior something. But don't feel this way. Don't feel that you're blocked because you think that you're arrogant because you go there, you go on LinkedIn, you build your profile, you make beauty, etc. You need to sell. You need to sell your image, right? And this is also, I think, very important for the entrepreneurs. Sell your voice, sell your image, and LinkedIn is super important for that. So take time working on your profile, take time like building the right connections, writing your stories as well. Just speak out there, and I think that's also very important.
Yeah, 100%. Andre, I think that's a great way to end. I appreciate you taking the time and
I really
imparting your
appreciate it.
wisdom,
I really
yeah,
appreciate the
on me.
invitation, Connor.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll give you the floor to close out. Where can people find you? Where can people find out about Advise if they want to check out what you're building?
Sure. So if you want to check out Aidvize, you can go directly to our website, Aidvize. It's pretty easy. Or you can go to my LinkedIn profile, André Monforte. Is also pretty easy. You can find me there.
Awesome, Andre. That'll all be linked down below. Thanks again and best of luck.
Perfect. Thank you a lot. Thank you.